The enemy say Bugri na Abuso record tape no de kokoma president. And the parliament in Saka, who handed it over to them? And omodi yenshishimu why I no cry their hunch then here. Na ye day ena 25 minutes. Afe de yakwa konya 1 hour, almost 1 hour 50 minutes version of the same conversation. And today na nipa bi twitwa free mu. Edi common na nipa bi mpese be ba bonte o mu twitwa free mu. Me ma kanchira wo say katepui o mu free adwa no ne e kan say munya adwa ifre ejana mo so munum no esan say jane ji wo mu a anhwe nipa a ebe hye o mu no o mu ani ne o mu ho so ne e kan na nipa bi fi say o mu nko an etumi manipulate nipa okrom hade. You see, scheme bibia na baby andi o tape no yeti are simple. The intent of the tape was to cause public disaffection. The intent for the release of the tape, how it was sponsored by me, some media houses and Kobo, any commented a free muba kanenano. The conclusion was that it was meant to cause disaffection for the government and to blackmail the government. Say, what means Saobi. Now there was other argument. Say, and Yamuko Tachi Dampara Nature 2024 election results of Befri Muabebiano, Yejitumua, Enye. This argument, as late as last week, na Adams Bona. We know the relationship between you and certain people and the motivation behind it. The enemy say Bugri na Abuso record tape no de kokoma president. And the parliament in Saka, who handed it over to them? And omodi yenshishimu why I no cry their hunch then here. Na ye day ena 25 minutes. Afe de yakwa konya 1 hour, almost 1 hour 50 minutes version of the same conversation. And today na nipa bi twitwa free mu. Edi common na nipa bi mpese be ba bonte o mu twitwa free mu. Me ma kanchira wo say katepui o mu free adwa no ne e kan say munya adwa ifre ejana mo so munum no esan say jane ji wo mu a anhwe nipa a ebe hye o mu no o mu ani ne o mu ho so ne e kan na nipa bi fi say o mu nko an etumi manipulate nipa okrom hade. You see, scheme bibia na baby andi o tape no yeti are simple. The intent of the tape was to cause public disaffection. The intent for the release of the tape, how it was sponsored by me, some media houses and Kobo, any commented a free muba kanenano. The conclusion was that it was meant to cause disaffection for the government and to blackmail the government. Say, what means Saobi. Now there was other argument. Say, and Yamuko Tachi Dampara Nature 2024 election results of Befri Muabebiano, Yejitumua, Enye. This argument, as late as last week, na Adams Bona. We know the relationship between you and certain people and the motivation behind it.
Good evening. Welcome to Good Evening Ghana. Sorry about the delay. We had a few difficulties in our data. We checked our data and we're good to go. Tonight, we have big stories coming up. And have you been observing what's happening in the news? What is happening in the courts as well? I've seen Facebook notices where they are talking about Office of Special Prosecutor and his claims against Cecilia Dapaah. We'll get to that later. What we do is that we have to verify it. So we have to read the document and assess it and deal with it and talk to people who understand and put it together. And then we'll come back with what we know, isn't it? Always we share with you what we know. Okay, sometimes people don't like the outcomes and so they look at it with political lenses. But tonight we're going to talk about cocoa also. And in dealing with cocoa, we want to get to the real meat of the cocoa political football that is going on. NDC and MPP are quarreling over cocoa prices and who has done better for the farmers and all of that. We have sat down with a protagonist and we have understood what it is. We'll share the data with you really about the cocoa situation. We'll dovetail the cocoa conversation into the politics of 2024. We're going to have a political conversation. We will dovetail it. So it's related. We will find out why there's a cocoa political conversation is because there's elections next year, isn't it? That's very important. And we will then talk about at this time, what is the NDC's most difficult concern relating to election 2024? And what is the MPP's most difficult concern relation to election 2024? We'll dovetail into that. And then finally, we'll talk about African politics and the coups that are going around. Yesterday, there was rumor that there could have been a coup in, Cameroon? I believe the president has been there forever, etc., etc. That conversation we wanted to have, we'll have it. We will reschedule our conversations about the IGP and OSP and all of that onto our next edition. So tonight, not much about the IGP, not much about the OSP. We will come back to you on that once we have more information. In terms of the parliamentary probe, we are still keeping an eye on it, and then we'll finish you with it very, very soon. We have a very long commercial break to come, so let's take the break. Then when we come, we hit the touch screen, and then we fly straight into the cocoa politics, dovetail into John Mahama and Bawumia politics. Kennedy Japan has also been on the news, hasn't he? He's been talking about Bantama MP Asensu Boakye, who is also Minister for Works and Housing. Well, what can we say about that? We just observe from the sidelines. We'll have a bit to say, though, about the MPP's campaign towards November 4th. When we come back, cocoa politics and African security politics. We'll be right back.
Hello, my friends. My name is Calkit Toothpaste.
Wow.
I was made to be gentle on your gum, but protected. I will protect your teeth from cavity, make your teeth whiter, stronger, keep your mouth fresh all day. And best of all, I'm strawberry flavored. So put on a smile and try me.
That's amazing.
Just try me. That's my job.
If you say so, jump on my brush. Makes your teeth stronger, chicky whiter, chicky stronger. Yay! You did it!
I'm glad you like your new toothpaste. Don't forget to brush both day and night.
Calkits. Happy smile.
Enjoy the fruits of your labor, they say. But as humans, aging and physical infirmity stands our way of enjoying our mansions and homes. It often becomes challenging, if not impossible, to use our stairways day in, day out. With portable American pneumatic vacuum elevators, PVs, you are assured of unlimited enjoyment of your mansions and homes. It's a self-supported elevator for vertical movement of humans and goods at homes and offices. The original comes in 3 custom-made models models with wheelchair accessibility. Call it luxury, but it's a necessary imperative for vertical mobility. Do not let aging or infirmity limit you. Get one for your easy vertical mobility at home. It's affordable and can be installed in just 3 days without modification to your existing building. It's however easier to incorporate it at the construction stage. We also have traditional Fuji elevators and escalators for your high-rise buildings and malls. Visit Lifts and Elevators Company Limited at Sakumono for your elevators nationwide. For free consultation to call or WhatsApp us on 0200-535-515. Lifts and Elevators, the elevator people.
ECG is now cashless. My studio lights are always on. I never run out of power. With the ECG Power app, I'm able to report an issue, check my credit, buy power, all in real time whenever I need to. I don't worry if ECG vendors are closed. In the comfort of wherever I may be, I still keep my lights on thanks to the ECG Power app. You can simply use mobile money wallets, Visa or MasterCard. It does not attract e-levy. With the ECG Power app, you're totally covered. To download, go to the App Store or the Google Play Store. You don't have a smartphone? Don't worry. No internet? Don't worry. No data? Do not worry. Just dial *226#. This is what I call convenience in your hands. ECG Power app. A yes, simple pa.
Energy Personality of the Year at the 7th edition of your prestigious Ghana Energy Awards. Under the theme, Ghana's Energy Transition Framework, sector institutions as building block for the 2030 to 2040 target. You can nominate yourself or an institution for categories such as CEO of the Year, Energy Investment Impact Award, Energy Signature Award, Rising Star, Energy Reporter of the Year, and many more. Nominations open until 29th September. Visit www.ghanaenergyawards.com or www.graphic.com.gh. For enquiries and sponsorship, call 055-930-0631. Endorsement, validation, industry partners, media partners, Metro TV, Graphic News Plus. Ghana Energy Awards, 7 years of redefining excellence.
For over 20 years of serving the world with herbal and alternative medicine, we've been successful in treating complicated medical conditions with a perfect combination of herbal and alternative methods of treatments like homeopathy, naturopathy, reflexology, and many more. We deliver excellent and effective service to people from all walks of life through scientific and traditional means. We have a well-equipped laboratory with advanced diagnostic and treatment devices to help detect your illness so we know the right medication to be given. At Amen Scientific Herbal and Alternative Medical Hospital, we are proud manufacturers of our own herbal medication. Our zeal and passion to save lives with our patients at heart and outstanding achievements since 1996 has won us several awards. That is why we say, go herbal, go Amen. We are located everywhere in all the regions. Amen Scientific Herbal and Alternative Medical Hospital. Allahu Shafi, God is the He.
My name is John, and this is my long-time crush, my cookie dipped in strawberry yogurt. On this scorching hot afternoon on our way back from a long job hunt, we met this good Samaritan who offered us 6 weeks later.
A special wedding reception for our bride and groom.
And there she is, my cookie, dipped in someone else's yogurt.
Who holds the moolah, holds the shots. Play game by games, the easiest lottery to play and win. Big phone numbers from 0 to 9 up to 3 times daily to become one of our daily lucky winners. Dial *946# to play now, or you can also play online at www.gamepackgames.com. Game Park is regulated by the National Lottery Authority.
My son, there's more blessing in giving than receiving. When you fear for you now, and Kobo the makers in
The pneumatological aberration of the Lord revealed unto me this night that me and my household should go out into the world and bless the world.
Makers Electronics Company Limited. I'm up to 67% discount. Our selected appliances.
This is what I call quintessential immaculatability.
The Makers Electronics Company Limited. Ewo Taifa Burkina Highway. Amasa Zongo Junction. Edike Pharmacy Dining. Oyer Fateman Boga Junction.
Junction, Ashaman, Falco Flat, Kumasi, Ahinema Kokoben, Asafubuachi Hospital Junction. Takradi, Efiekuma, number 9 market.
So and tell mom and dad about the Maker's Blessing Attack program.
From 0552 222 253 and 0552 222 254. Terms and conditions apply.
Betway is your gateway to a theme park full of gaming excitement. A whirlpool of wonder where your favorite games come to life. Where you can take to the skies with max payouts that reach into the millions. All in the palm of your hand. Visit betway.com.gh. Terms and conditions apply. Betway is regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. No under 18. Bet responsibly. Betway. Bet your way.
In life, choice is good, but choice plus safety is way better. Your safety and comfort is paramount. Under the cylinder recirculation model, you can buy LPG in a safe environment. All cylinders are inspected and maintained to the best safety standards, so your safety is assured. Just take your empty cylinder to the nearest exchange point and swap it for a filled cylinder. Different cylinder sizes will be available to meet your pocket size. Imagine cooking in a smoke-free environment. This will improve the health and well-being of you and your family. Choose LPG in a safer model of distribution. Cylinder recirculation model. Securing your safety. Creating more jobs. A message from the National Petroleum Authority under the patronage of the Ministry of Energy.
Mene kwaku owusu ajei pato abrasamadu katawire wosobrobo mensa kwaku abridi abrada sumaya echimpani echimofra ere agene be kasa problem e wo nyina ne say yetimi wo say problem wo manum na ye problems ne nkofo de ye business enti da bia kwan on person ye ne say on person problems ne ka ho na mo adwen nya o say ye betena be keka nsam e be ma otirimu aye ode de hia be bo my Ghana ho nkomo ene e ba bedie ya bre obi aba no aba be kan de obi aba no aba be kan de ere de nyesa de be ni bio ye ni abere ye be kan se de sitie bia ama what de se de sitie me kura de mi na nka de send the bluetooth bia ma obroni be say no matter whose ox is god ye be kan ho asem jiba de efri ewia no mi no kopum se be bono ntia agene kasa on original 91.9 FM aha enyansa fi.
Metro Business Week brings you a breakdown of top business stories, analysis of latest trends in business, economy, and fascinating insight across industries. Update from the Forex, stocks, and commodities markets. Our special guest includes economists, policymakers, entrepreneurs, and more. Get ready to learn the secret of business success for national economic development. Metro Business Week. Facts and figures made simple.
Many years ago in Ghana, the cocoa farmers used to determine the elections. In 1951, the election was about the cocoa price. In 1954, the election was about the cocoa price. Even a political party was created called the National Liberation Movement, whose objectives was to lobby and fix the cocoa price at a certain level. So over the years, election has been run on the back of cocoa prices. We thought that was gone to the past. But cocoa is still very, very important to Ghana, and it's become even more important today than it was 70 years ago. So you can understand that as elections are approaching, cocoa price will be important. And every year, it used to be around October, international cocoa prices are announced. There's a reason why the Cocoa Board is bringing it to September this time. I'll get to that reason. There's a reason why they are bringing it to September. But every year, cocoa prices are announced in October. What we're going to do tonight, which is part of what we did on Tuesday, is to tell you, the interested, independent, and discerning viewer, what this whole cocoa politics is about, so that you can understand it. When you have finished, you can decide that the NDC is right, or the MPP is right. What we are going to do here is to show you the facts. And the facts that we are going to show you is available to Parliament, is available to Cocoa Board, is available to the MPP, is available to the NDC as well. We will then put our interpretation of the facts, suggesting it to you, and then you tell us what you think. Okay. So, I don't want to start with digitization of the farmer. All right. Let me go all the way back to this one. This is all to just explain the cocoa industry. So I begin with this slide, which says the cocoa industry. So what is the cocoa industry? Well, we know about Tetekwashi and Fernando Po when he brought the cocoa to Ghana, etc., etc. We know about the role of J.B. Dankwa and others in creating the cocoa marketing board. We know about the role of Kwame Nkrumah in establishing the buying price from the farmers and that the farmers should sell to Cocoa Board. We know the role of the champion government in managing soil issues. We know the role of the PNDC government in also managing soil issues, etc., etc. Now let's get to the story. The cocoa industry in Ghana, okay? Now, how does the cocoa industry in Ghana work? We move on. International price, the international market set the price of cocoa for the next year, every year. We said that last year. So when the international people meet this year, they set up a price for cocoa at this time. When they set up the price, Ghana sells the cocoa in the futures, you know. Sorry, viewers. Ghana sells the cocoa in the futures. Almost everyone does. Oil traders, almost every commodity is sold in the futures. You don't sell all of it in the futures. So Ghana decides that we are selling 70% of the cocoa in the futures. So the cocoa people sit down today and say that the price for cocoa for the coming season, that is the ton of cocoa, will be bought from the farmer. It will be bought from the price of a ton of cocoa will be 3,000 United States dollars. Now, government will then decide that at 3,000 United States dollars, how much will I buy it from the farmer? That 3,000 United States dollars will not be given to the farmer, it will be given to government. So government goes to buy from the farmer because government sponsors the farmer in many ways that I'll tell you about as we go on with the conversation. So 3,000 cedis, $3,000, and the government decides that I will give you this. We have done a table over the last maybe 12 to 14 years, showing you the producer price of this year, what percentage the government decides to give to the farmer. And as we run through it, you will see NDC's contribution and MPP's contribution, and then you can pick the argument well. So the first thing is that the cocoa is decided in the future. So when you hear a cocoa price announced today, the honest truth is that when the price has been announced today, it is for the future. The cocoa that government is buying now, government has already sold it, and that's how government has been working since the 90s when they started doing the cocoa bonds introduced in the early 90s. So the price of today, the price of yesterday is what government is buying today. So government gets a price in September, $3,000 per ton. Government decides that I will give the farmers $2,000. Okay, so that is the cocoa for tomorrow that government is selling to the international market today. So government sells it, then comes to the farmers and comes to collect the cocoa and then ships it abroad. So the cocoa that the government is shipping abroad has already been sold. If by the time they finish buying from the farmers or in the middle of the buying from the farmers, a new price comes, government cannot benefit from that price because it is selling, it has already sold and it is now collecting the cocoa to go and give to the people who have bought. How do they buy it? So they buy it by a paper. You can call it coupon, as some of the bankers and investment bankers do. So they bring a coupon. So I have a coupon. I say that I will give Ghana $160,000 for X tons of cocoa. Another person says, I'll give Ghana They collect all those papers and go to a bank. And the bank will say, okay, you're expecting to get $1.6 billion from cocoa. I will give you $1.2 billion now. And then you pay me when you get the money. And then the rest, you can find your own money, etc., whatever. So they take the money from the bank and then come to the farmers and then buy, cut the trees, give the farmers money, prune the farms, all of that. So we're going to go into that. All right. So this is about the international price. It's set the year ahead so that people can understand it, isn't it? Okay. Now, government borrows to buy cocoa from the farmers and sells at the same international price to the international market. So this Jubilee House impression here represents government. So that's what the government do. The government then borrows. They borrow the money and then they buy from the farmers. So you see always on the graphic front page, cocoa bond, something oversubscribed, cocoa bond raises 1.2 billion on international markets. You hear it all the time. All right, so this is what this is how it works. International price comes, government goes to borrow, to buy, to give it to the people who have already paid, who have already pledged to pay. And it's based on their pledge that government was able to borrow the money. It's based on the pledge to buy cocoa from Ghana that government was able to borrow the money. Okay, let's move on. So then, this is what happens next. This is the international market, and this is the cocoa farmer. In between the international market and the cocoa farmer is the government of Ghana. The government of Ghana is sitting in the middle there between the international market and the cocoa farmer. So the FOB, this is very, very well done. Thanks to my graphics people. The FOB is from international market to Ghana. And then Ghana gives the international market cocoa. Very well done, arrows here. And then here, the farmer gives the government cocoa. And the government gives the farmer a percentage of the FOB price. The FOB is how much the international market is offering to government of Ghana for a ton of cocoa. So that ton of cocoa, that FOB price is from international to government. And then from government to the farmer, a percentage of it. It's the government that makes the decision how much we're giving the farmer. So if the government makes a bad decision, the farmer is shortchanged. If the government makes a good decision, the farmer is happy. The farmer is happy means there's more production. A lot of people are happy. We'll get to the data of how many cocoa farmers there are in Ghana right now. All right, so this is the situation. So we are now, the conversation here, the political conversation here right now is that NDC is telling government that the amount of money you are giving to the farmers is too small. You should have given the farmers more. NPP is saying that NDC is concerned because the farmers are excited with what we are doing, and NDC believes that this will impact on election 2024. So that's why they've started doing that, telling the farmer that even though you are happy, because the report is that farmers were excited, farming communities blew up in pandemonium and were expressing excitement over the gains that government has announced they will be getting. And then suddenly, the opponent, NDC, comes in and says that, don't celebrate, Mr. Farmer, you should have been getting more. This is where the conversation, the constellation, the clashes began. NPP says, why are you telling the farmer they could have gotten more when you know that it's not possible, when you didn't give them more, I'm giving them more, all that accusations and counter accusations going on. Anyway, let's get back to the thing. So this is the basic understanding. FOB to government. Government gives cocoa. Government gives part of the money to farmer, and then the farmer gives the government cocoa. All right, let's move on. Okay, the average of the, this one, we'll get to it later on. All right, so now, this is the latest situation. This is the latest situation, what we have here. The international market has given the government a certain amount of money. 70.5% of that is being given to the farmer, and we are being told that that is not enough. So let's go and look at the history. We'll come to the digitalization. Please get me the data. We'll come to digitalization of the farm. We'll come to the cocoa seedlings. We'll come to the hand pollination. We'll come to the data collection and the compensation to the farmers and the farmer tenant and landlord farmer, and then the cutting of cocoa trees. All of these are interventions that have been made that has affected. We'll also talk about the case of Brazil. What happened to Brazil? Give me the data. They'll put the data on quickly, and then I deal with the data analysis. All right. So data number one. So this is the percentage. This is the percentage that government gave to the farmer, and we're going to run through the data. In 2009 and 2010, so the cocoa season is like academic year, it's like football season, it's 09 because it starts from October until the next year, June. So that's how it works. In 2009-2010, government gave 63% of the price they were getting to the farmer. In 2010-2011, government gave 68%. Now, we will get the figures. Please, can you give me the figures of the FOB so that we'll see the 2,600, at which point government makes 2,600? Because the Cocoa Board say that anytime the international price is below 2,600, they make losses. They break even on 2,600. Beyond 2,600, they can make some profits. Anytime it's below that, they make losses. So let's look at how the price. No, this isn't that what I'm looking for? No, not this one. Not this one. Let's get the prices. The 2,600, 3,000, 2,600. That one. Okay. Yes. Great. This is the one I'm looking for. Thank you. So this is the producer price. Well, yes. This is the full. This is the full spreadsheet that we're going to work on today. So you see all the columns. Crop year. We have producer price per ton, the bag, the increases, everything. Just to put the conversation in perspective and then be able to put the matter to bed. Okay, thank you. Let's come back to this one. Now, put this on the screen so they can see it. This one, yes, great. All right. So in 2009, 2010, the price was 2,400. It means that it was short of the 2,600 that government needed. So, and then in 2010, 2011, you had 3,300. That was very significant. 2010, 2011 was significant profit. 2011, 2012, 3,000 again. 2012, 13, 2,300, again below 2,600. 13, 14, 2,130. 14, 15, 2,007. 15, 16 is 2,009. And then now the NPP comes in, well, this is still NDC, 2009 again, 16, 17. Move to the next page. Let's see. Okay, so in 2017, 17, 18 is when the NPP comes in. 2018, 18, 19, 2,200. 19, 20, 2,300. 2020, 2021, 2,100. 22, 2,100. 2022, 23, 2,050. And now 23, 24, 2,600. This is how the break even works. Okay, so let's go back to this. Let me shift to the first one. All right, great. So let's look at the years here. In 2009, 2010, the price was 2,400, below the threshold. Let's add the percentages. Do you have the percentages of the FOB in addition to this one? I don't know whether I can see the two at the same time so I can work on it. But 2,400. 2010, 2011 was 3,300. That was the price upon which government worked. So that was a significant profit. 2011, 2012, this is the mills years, 3,000. 12, 13, 3,300. Then 13, 14 is President Mahama, 2,100 goes below. 14, 15 is 2,700. The price, that is 2014, 15, that's a good price. 15, 16 is a very good price, 2,900. And then 16, 17, 2,900. That's still very good. And then 17, 18 comes down all the way from 2,900 in 16, 17. The price drops to 2,080 in 17, 18. 18, 19, 2,200, still bad. 19, 20, 2,300, still bad. 20, 2021, 2,100, still bad. 22, 100, still bad. 23, 2,050, and then 24. So if you look at the current administration, from the time they took over Cocoa Board, they have made losses in 17, 18, losses in 2019, losses in 2020, losses in 21, losses in 22, losses in 23 from the international market, and a break even in 2024. So that's the picture now. Now let's go and strike the comparison. So you've seen the cocoa price, the way it behaves in the NDC era, cocoa price, the way it behaves in the MPP era. Let's go back to our Flagstaff House diagram. Then we're going to find out which government is giving the cocoa farmers more and which government is not giving the cocoa farmers more. And then we can do the interventions that have occurred right now, and then we can move on. Okay, so now we have the percentages. Is that what we have? The percentages for each year. Okay, so in 2010, when the price was, can you tell me the price in 2010? I wish I had that together. Okay, so in 2010, the price, can you tell me the price? You should tell me. I'll write it down. The price in 2010. Okay, give me the first one. We just put it down. 2,400. So at 2,400, government gave 63%. Okay, the good year was, then the next year, 2010, 2011, what was the price? 2010, 2011, government gave a percentage of 68% on 3,300. That was in 2010. That was about the best. 2010 was about the best that we've had so far. And government gave 68%. 2011, 2012, government gave 71%. 3,000. In 2011 and 12, government gave 3,000, 71%. And then 2013, government did very well. 12, 13, 78% is what government gave. What was the value? 2012, 2013. 2,300 in 2012, 2013. Government gave 78%. That was very good. The government in 2012-2013 year gave 78% on 2,300. That was very good. Then comes 2013-2014. Government gives 76%. 2001-30, 76%. Then 2014-2015, government gives 63%. What was it? 2007, 60, 63%. 2015-2016, 61%. Then 2016-2017, 65%. Okay. Now at this stage, a new government takes over. A new government takes over. So 2017-2018, what was the price? 2,080. Now at 2,080 in 2017-2016, the cocoa board was losing, but the government gave 83%. 83% in 2017-2018. 2018-2019, what was the price? 2,200 was the price. Government was still losing below the threshold, gave 76%. So MPP government starts with 83%. Let's go back to the last one. NDC government ends on 65%. If you look at this one, the highest the NDC gave was 78%. 2012-2013 was 3,300. International markets gave 3,300, and the government of Ghana gave 68%, but the NDC's highest was 78% in 2012-2013. 2012-2013, what was the price? 2012-2013, the 78%. Can you get it for me very quickly? 2,300. 2,300, government gave 78%. Okay. Now, the MPP comes in 2017-2018, what was the price? 17-18. 2,080. So on 2,080, government gives the cocoa farmer 83% of the price that comes to the government. That's what happened in 2018. We're putting the historical one in perspective so that when we do the analysis, we can understand. So the NDC and the MPP are quarreling over something, but this is the raw data. All right. So 83% went to the farmer. In 2018-19, 76% went to the farmer. 2019-2020, now in all of these years until 2024, Cocoa Board is making losses and the figures are significantly low. So 83%, 76%, 66%, 71%. 2021-2022 was low. That's 67%. 22-23 was 51%, and now it's 70%. So this is the conversation. This is the argument. So NDC are saying that you could have done more than 70%. But the question always is, let's look at the NDC's record. This is the NDC's record. At amazing prices, 68. The best one was 78. And they have 68, 71, 78, 76, 70, 63. And then if you look at the MPP, you have 83, 76, 66, 71, 67, and then now 70.5%. Okay, let's look at the increase, the amount of money that was added year on year in the crop season. So if you take 2009 and 2010 as the base year, we then start from 2010-2011, the NDC added 50 cedis to what the farmer was getting the previous year. In the next year, the NDC 11-12 added 5 cedis to what the farmer was getting. 12-13, NDC added 7 cedis to what the farmer was getting. 2013-2014, NDC did not increase what the farmer was getting, so it was 0. 2014-2015, NDC added 138 to what the farmer was getting. 2015-2016, NDC added 75 to what the farmer was getting. 2016-2017, NDC added 50 to what the farmer was getting. Okay. 2017-2018, MPP added 0 to what the farmer was getting because the percentage increase was high, but the farmer didn't add much to what the farmer was getting. The prices went down. 18-19 was also 0. Then 19-20, MPP added 40. Then in 2021, MPP added 145. 2022, they didn't add. 2023, MPP added 140, and now the highest ever recorded in the history of the last 14 years, MPP adds a whooping 508. So that's the conversation. That's the conversation. It's quite simple. It's about these comparisons. Who has done more for the farmer? So as the figures are out now, you can send your text and let's see. But let's now get into the interventions and see why this has become politically important. It's about the interventions. The interventions are the key. That's why it's become politically important. So this is the first intervention that has happened since now. The digitalization conversation that people talk about, that Dr. Bawumia this, Dr. Bawumia that, is gone to the cocoa area. So I will not give all the figures because I'm not allowed to. I've seen the confidential information of the data that has been collected. But now, Cocoa Board have all the data on every farmer in Ghana. It didn't used to be. They now have it. They have the phone number of every farmer in Ghana. They have it. They also have the digital address of the farms. So the way when you are going to a place, somebody can send you a digital address. Now, a farmer can send you the digital address to his farm, and you can go there. That's the Cocoa Board chief executive in the photograph. This is what he's been doing. This is what Joseph Edu has been doing. Joseph Edu has gone down and drilled the situation and digitalized the farms. So every farm has an address. Now, why is that important? That is important because the European Union in Brussels have indicated a time beyond which they will not allow cocoa into European Union without knowing the farm that the cocoa came from. Not the area. They want to know the farm, the actual farm. So that if now Joseph Edu buys cocoa from this farm, he marks it as farm number, so and so, Paul Adomachi, digital address, so and so and so. When he ships it to Amsterdam and they take it and they look at it, and they call somebody and say, go to Paul Adomachi's farm at this address, you go and it is there. That's what Cocoa Board has done. So this is the first major intervention that has occurred. That is exciting the farmers. The reason why this has become a political fight is that the farmers express excitement. Once the farmers got happy with one side of the divide, naturally the other side of the divide was going to be aroused one way or the other. Because the farmers are happy with one side of the divide, so they get aroused about it. Because elections are coming, and cocoa is very, very important. Cocoa farmers are very important. Eastern region has cocoa, Ashanti has cocoa, Western has cocoa, and now Central region even has cocoa. So it's key, isn't it? But the farmers are happy about this digitalization effort. It's very, very important to them. Now, the cocoa seedlings issue. So the seedling intervention has always been happening, but now it's happening in a different way. Now the seedling intervention is happening in a different way because the farmers are not necessarily giving the seedlings. People have been hired to work, and so if you look at the seedling together with the hand pollination, which I'll come to in a little bit, and the compensation is there. But this one, the cutting of the cocoa trees. So the cutting of the cocoa trees has a direct correlation with the seedling situation and then the plantain situation. So cocoa trees have to be cut. Now, before the 2018, before Joseph Edu, government was urging farmers to cut the cocoa trees. But Joseph Edu found out that by the time a farmer has farmed 10 acres, he farms 1 acre every year. So that's a decade. If he starts cocoa farming at 25, over a decade, his 10 years, he's 35. If he started cocoa farming at 30, he's 40. So, and some of them start at 30 something. So he's probably getting to be an old man now, So he decided that government should actually do the cutting of the trees. Government must spend money. And Cocoa Board has been spending a lot of money. Some of the losses are attributable to the losses from 2017 and how much more money they've put in. You see, it's almost like the COVID situation. You don't pay water, you don't pay electricity, you get paid. So the cocoa thing was like that. So the cocoa price is going down. But the government says it doesn't matter. And then the swollen shoot disease comes. So they are paying the farmers, and then they go in to cut the trees. This is what is creating the excitement. It's not just even about the new announcement of the price. If you have talked to the cocoa areas, this is what is creating the excitement. The cocoa farmer can relax and have the government do some of the work for him. Government comes to cut the trees, and government plants the cocoa for him. And that's what you see here. This is all government work. The cutting of the cocoa trees, the planting, this is all government work. And then there is also the hand pollination. So this lady in the photograph here that you see is being hired by government to look at the cocoa flowers, the fruits, and determine the pollination. Just means the reproduction process. The reproduction process is the pollination. So she is being trained to carefully look at how to pollinate. Can this one mix with this one, and this one can mix with that one? So that's what she's doing. She's been hired by government. This process began only since 2018 when Joseph Edu came in, that the pollination will be done by experts. Before, all of this was left to the cocoa farmer. So, and the cocoa farmers were getting tired, so they give their farm to Galamsey. They are tired. But since these things started, the farms have been kept together. So pollination is also going on. The data collection I've talked about already. The cocoa seedlings are being planted. The digitalization is also going on. And then you have the plantain that is being planted in the farms to help the cocoa farmer. And there they were explaining that is why there's a lot of plantain. So all of these interventions are exciting the farmers. And that is the reason why we are getting all the political arousal from the NDC, but the NDC, we have to listen to their story as well. So they are saying that you should pay the farmers more because whatever government is getting, paying the farmers 70% is too small. That's the point they are making. But the farmers appear excited about not just the price that has been given them, but about the whole rejuvenation of the cocoa industry for them, cutting off trees, paying their rent. And I'll come to the rent situation. Where's the rent situation? Let me get that. There's a rent situation here, which is also very, 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 very new. Oh, please get me the rent, how government is paying. They'll get me that photograph in a minute. It's also very, very new. Now, this is what happens. It's here. Compensation to farmers, tenant farmer and landlord farmer. So this is what is happening. Now, the government found out that because the cocoa price was going down and because of the swollen shoot disease that cleared the trees, they cut the trees and had to plant. The farmers who were sort of tenants on the farm to a farm landlord, they didn't have money to retain their tenancy. So what did the government do? Government identified them because now there is digitalization and government can find them. Government identified them and then paid their rent and also paid them subsistence money so that they can survive. And all of these interventions are exciting the cocoa farmers. That's what's exciting them. That's the whole idea. This is a well thought out intervention that has hit the cocoa industry, and that is the problem. So now farmers get excited and the politicians must come in and speak about it. So this is also another intervention that we need to mention. And you can check this. Other journalists can check these facts, and I'm sure over the next few years, over the next few days, journalists will be interrogating some of these facts from the cocoa situation. So that's the story. This is the problem. Now, if you come to look at this one, you will see that it behoves a big political conversation. Because going into 2024's election, there's going to be a lot of conversation about, I wish you had Dr. Bawumia here rather than Nana Akufo-Addo, but good evening, President Mahama. He's a nice guy. Now, President Mahama is the NDC's candidate. Because he has been president before, you're going to have a situation where people are going to be asking him that, okay, you can talk about cocoa price, but when you were talking about, when you were president and the opportunity was given, what did you do? So I am looking at this and I'm saying that a lot of people are going to ask President Mahama questions about, instead of saying something is bad or something is good, to be replacing it with what did you do? Because we remember, well, at least President Mahama has said something recently, and that was very bold. He said about what he will do with the appointment of judges. He said that, look, from what I'm seeing, if I become president in 2024, I want you NDC lawyers to desire to be judges so that I'll put you on the bench as president. And then it can equalize what Akufo-Addo has done because he has put NPP people there. So I will also put NDC people there. That's clear. That's what he said he wants to do. And he will be invited to say what he wants to do in almost every situation. Now, when Akufo-Addo was campaigning for president in 2016, he had never been president before. He had never been. He was campaigning for president. So Akufo-Addo has campaigned twice. One when he had never been president, and one when he was in his first term looking for a second term. When he had never been president before, he came and talked about, everybody talked about the economy is hard, there's doomsday and all of that. But that's not where he ended. He didn't say that there's doomsday and the economy is hard and blah, 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 so kick out the NDC government. No. Yes, kick out the NDC government, he did say, but he said, these are the things I will do. Now I'm going to show you a video which is old, which you would hear. In the video where Akufo-Addo is addressing people ahead of 2016's campaign. Is the video not ready? Oh wow! All right, I'll take a break. I'll take a break and come back, and then we can continue with this part of the story about President Mahama saying what he should do. I'll dovetail into a few other things, and then we'll deal with it. Okay, or do you have messages? Do you have some messages? Okay, so let's take 3 messages from you and see whether we'll get there. Yes, so let's start with you, Fatih. What messages do you have? 17 minutes past at 10 o'clock. Viewers, don't go anywhere. I'm just getting the video so that I'll come and start the story again. President Mahama must say what he will do. I'll deal with it. Okay, Fatih.
Right, thank you, Paul. This is coming from Gastiman, and Gastiman says, Esiedin Ketia and Sammy Jenfi should be ashamed of themselves. Cocoa farmers are happier than ever, yet these guys are still going around with their dirty propaganda. It's high time we chase these types of hypocrites away anytime they come to us. Coming from Master Planner from Kintampo, he says, pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower. Mr. Paul, the new cocoa prize is giving NDC sleepless nights. When they close their eyes, they always see Dr. Baumia chasing them in a cocoa farm. Coming from Inshraba Anaka, he says, NPP government has done so well in the cocoa industry. Next year will daze them. NDC never again. Coming from Alfred Mansa, he says, good evening, Mr. Paul, your able team. My simple frustration about these cocoa politics being played by the NPP and NDC 66 years after independence, 31 years after the Fourth Republic, and we the Ghanaians are here determining whose figures are true by these two parties. Very shameful to say the least. After all these years, we should rather be constructively by deliberating at all levels about diversification and value addition, not what is happening by these politicians. Coming from Safiano Adams, he says, good evening, Paul and your crew. The interesting and good news to our gallant farmers under this government is that apart from the unprecedented cocoa price increase in the high yield per acre for the farmers due to the hand pollination and cocoa pronation initiated by Cocoa Board, exciting times are ahead of the cocoa farmer. Next year will be interesting. And lastly, coming from Wellington Adair, he says, watching you live in the New York City, Brother Paul, God bless you and good evening, Ghana team. You're always doing great. The government is doing well for the new price of cocoa, so NDC should stop their propaganda. My regards to our next president, Honorable Ken. Angelo, do you have more for us?
Right, Citizen Francis says, in the Sin North by-election, the NDC pledged to pay cocoa farmers around 1,200 cedis per bag if elected. Now, the government has raised the cocoa price from 800 to 1,308 per bag due to market conditions. It seems they've shifted from their earlier promise in the Sin North 3 months ago. Nevertheless, cocoa farmers are content and grateful for the government's new price. Moses Klumensa asked the question, Paul, is the break-even price fixed? Gemma says, Paul, tell us about Ajwa Safo, by the way. Have you gotten your share of her yogurt? A little joke there. Elom Kwame says, I love your well-reasoned presentation all the time. It blows fat holes in the self-serving politicking of both parties engage in. You and your team represent a voice of sanity in the storm of political insanity and propaganda. Now, Vladimir Bechiana Tofik says, Cocoa Board should be taken out of Accra because Accra doesn't have any cocoa farmers. Interesting perspective. And lastly, Citizen Francis says, the recent cocoa price increase has been keeping the NDC awake at night. It raises a question. Since the NDC went into opposition, have they ever engaged with cocoa farmers to discuss their future policies? The answer is a resounding no. Well, Francis, I wonder how you know that. Moving on, it says, so why this sudden urgency to meet cocoa farmers now, right after a significant price hike? Is it desperation or mere propaganda? Cocoa farmers are discerning. They remember the shortcomings of the NDC policies during their previous tenure. This is according to Citizen Francis. I can return to you, Paul, if you're ready. Okay, it looks like he's not ready. So another message from Edem Kojo says, please tell Baumia to do us the needful by adding another column to the table depicting the real amounts with relation to the percentages. Note that the farmers receive cash, so let us compare the real figures paid to the farmer and not the percentages. If the percentages we go chop. And, well, Aaron says, politicians must spare us a break from this blame game attitude of which political parties did this or not, and begin to identify loopholes within the economy and come out with a pragmatic approach to salvage the economy. And also, parliamentarians must begin to understand that their presence at the parliamentary session is key, but that attitude of absenteeism will not help build the democracy we want. Hashtag love, not hate, hashtag respect. Can I return to you, Paul?
Okay, yes, 1 minute past the top of the hour at 10 o'clock. Okay, so let's get back to the story that we had started. So from the cocoa story, in terms of what NDC would do, the NDC should be telling the farmers that if I were there, instead of giving you the increase of 508 cedis, or instead of giving you the percentage, I will give more. The same thing. We are not hearing much about the free SHS conversation. Is it President Mahama's policy that when I come, I'll take free SHS out? You see, it's about the policy challenges. And this is not political. It's for every young Ghanaian. I want Ghana to be better than what it is now. Everyone wants Ghana to be better than what it is now. And President Mahama is talking about the Ghana we want, which is okay. But when an issue comes up, people are going to expect President Mahama, ahead of the campaign, to be able to say what he will do. Not just criticize the government that is not good. No, it's just say, I will do it like this. That's what we need from all our leaders. We will require Dr. Bawumia, if he becomes the MPP flag bearer, to be able to do the same. That he has to, first of all, defend the MPP record and tell us why we are where we are and where he's taking us. We want to understand whether he knows what he's about, because we are tired of voting from a long time. We now want to elect people that are telling us something, so that when he comes, we can measure him by something. The other day, people were talking about Nana Akufo-Addo, and they said that he said he would do one district, one factory. How many factories has he done? There's X number of districts. Are there districts in every factory? That's the politics we want, so that we can measure him by it. So he can come and tell us that, Mr. Man, you said you were going to give us this. Have you done it? But this politics of I should be elected because the government is bad or because the economy is bad, I don't know whether Ghanaian youth are going to embrace it. President Mahama will be required to say, this is what I will do. As I said already, he has said something about what he will do when he comes to the bench. He says, when I become, or if I become president in 2024, NDC lawyers desire to come on the bench and I will appoint you, because it's time that I have to equalize with what Akufo-Addo has done. He has appointed a lot of MPP people onto the bench, so I will appoint NDC. That's a value, a statement that he has made that we can deal with. He's saying that I want to be president. If you elect me, this is what you're going to get. Now, I'm taking you back to 2016 and show you a video about when Akufo-Addo was campaigning. He didn't just campaign to say that the economy is bad and so therefore elect me to power. No, he said the economy was bad. He said that. And people knew that. But he also said the interventions he's going to do, what he's going to do. That's what people listened to, and that's why he got, I think, that's why he got that significant whooping 1 million votes over President Mahama, who was the incumbent. Because here was a man who was coming into the job telling Ghanaians that this and this is what I will do. That indicated it gave an indication of one who had understood the problem and knew how to solve it. This is what Akufo-Addo said in 2016. This is what he said.
Free secondary education, the revival of the National Health Insurance Scheme, one district, one factory, one village, one dam, the Zongo Development Fund. All of these are matters that we are going to address and do to promote the welfare and the progress and prosperity of the people. Free secondary education, the revival of the National Health Insurance Scheme, one district, one factory, one village, one dam, the Zongo Development Fund. All of these are matters that we are going to address and do to promote the welfare and the progress and prosperity of the people.
You heard it. Maybe that's going to come from President Mahama sometime, I don't know. But you heard it. He says, these are the things we're going to do. One district, one factory, free SHS. Now, these things that he outlined were not part of the Ghanaian policy conversation at the time. It wasn't part of our policy conversation. No. No policy was called free SHS. There was nothing like that. No policy was called one district, one factory. There was nothing like that. No policy was called one village, one dam. No policy was called Zongo Development Fund. And these policies that were outlined by Nana Akufo-Addo were well thought through by people who sat with him. Some didn't sit with him. They sat together writing it overnight, burning the midnight oil, thinking about the bigger Ghana and putting policies in place that they think will work. Today, you can judge whether he failed or he didn't, or he succeeded. But we all know that before Nana Akufo-Addo became president, Ekumfi juice was not there. It wasn't part of Ghana. Today it's there, produced in Ghana. When we were growing up at my age, those of us who grew up in my generation, there was Refresh, something called Refresh. It was very nice. It was also grown in Ghana. It vanished. We didn't see it again. And the Ekumfi juice came in 2018 as a result of one district, one factory. There are many things that have happened as a direct result of one district, one factory. Students are going to Holy Child and Infant Film these days. They have Ekumfi juice. It's there. It wasn't there. It is there now. That's the whole point about politics. It's for the political leader to come and do something that wasn't there before. If everybody had been adding one Ekumfi juice factory from 1960s, do you know how many factories we would have had today? So Akufo-Addo didn't do anything. Yes, he didn't do anything. But he did Ekumfi juice. Now, that's one thing he did. Take everything away. Even cancel free SHS. He brought a trade factor. A new trade factor that was not part of Ghana's conversation. That's what we are going to expect of our leaders in 2024. Of John Dramani Mahama and of Dr. Bawumia if he becomes the flag bearer. That these are the things. Now, I like Dr. Bawumia's politics because, and that's my own personal. I'm not urging it on anyone. But I'm just explaining to you why I like Dr. Bawumia's politics. You will see when you listen to Dr. Bawumia, for those of us who have covered politics from 1996, you will see when you listen to Dr. Bawumia that he has a way of elevating the conversation. Dr. Bawumia has a way of elevating the political conversation to a certain level that makes his environment a bit frightening in terms of poking at him and all of that, because he doesn't poke back. And he's always talking about something substantial. So he represented himself as the economic whiz-kid of the period and all of that. And that. And now, 2017 came, 2018, 2019, I still hold the view that before COVID, if you can't tell me that the Bawumia economy was bad, you can't say it was bad after COVID. Because after COVID, every economy in the world is bad. So the measurement has to be before COVID, 17, 18, 19, 20. What were the figures showing? What was Ghana's economy looking like? What economy did Dr. Bawumia inherit anyway in 2016? What did the figures look like? How did the figures become? If that period was a failure, then we mark him as a failure. But if that period was successful, then we'll have to painfully mark him as successful because after COVID, the whole world went down. Anyway, forget about that argument. People can politicize it. When you listen to Dr. Bawumia and people attack him, even take the recent one, Kennedy Japan, stand somewhere, say it's not a strategy. Now, when he comes out of COVID, Dr. Bawumia comes out of COVID, he's talking about digitalization. Digitalization is the key in the whole economic equation. That's why people can fry yam in their home in Osu, video it, put it on Instagram, and because of mobile money interoperability, all the yam is finished whilst it is still being fried. It is digitalization. The reason why people, these days I see the video, people say that I was in Ghana, I was working, I didn't get any money, I'm now in Holland, I'm doing this, I'm getting this money. It's true. Part of the reason why that can happen in Holland, it can happen in Ghana, is because here in Ghana, the system doesn't know where Paul Adomotiri is today. They don't know. Now, because I have Ghana card, it's getting better. But the digitalization process that makes the system know where everybody is at every time means that you can take a bank loan from your home. People go to London and tell us, oh, I don't have to go to the bank, house in my house. And they get, you can't take a bank loan from your home in Ghana because people don't know where you are. The digitalization process that Dr. Bawumia thinks is the most important equation right now is the reason why UK is what it is and we are where we are. But as the digitalization goes on, now we have Ghana card, now we have home addresses. That means a lot. Even the Christmas that has become a festive occasion globally as Ghana Christmas was part of policy. Some presidents went somewhere and said a year of return. And then when they came, because we are digitalized, they are able to move. The young people who have never been to Ghana, their parents were born in Ghana, their parents are Ghanaians, they come to Ghana for Christmas, they are excited because it's digital. They can buy what they need. They can go on Instagram and they can find the nearest Chinese restaurant on their phone. That's digitalization. That's the work of government. That's policy. That's thinking. But forget about digitalization. Look at the way Dr. Bawumia responds to political attacks. These days, we have too much vitriol on radio and television and social media. Just too much. So much that Pentecost had to go and hold a conference to talk about it. Now, Dr. Bawumia has been attacked in this campaign. Listen to what he said. This is how he responds to the attack. So one time, Kennedy Japan said something about Dr. Bawumia. He said he said something about strategy. And then later on, Mr. Japan said he was talking about John Kuma. Now, Dr. Bawumia's response was, let's get on. Let's get on with this business. Let's move on. Let's convince the Ghanaian people that it's possible. Let's make the signal stronger. Listen to him. Listen to what he says here.
Campaign a internal election. The main enemy NDC. So a campaign no. We want peace. You have a clean election, clean campaign. You have because your election no, you taking on NDC. So we can't train me supporters, name me spokespersons in ourselves. You have a clean election. We are one family. We are one family. Let's all stay united. When the contest is over, we will come back together as one family and make sure the NDC doesn't come back to power. That is very important. Let's keep the MPP in power. We want unity, unity, unity. In Kabum, in the MPP. I don't know about my
All right, so it's now 27 minutes on top of that, 11. We now have enough time to do some academic exercise. Those of you who are interested in the theory, it's now time for us to look at the conversation we've been having about the spate of coups in West Africa. Al-Hassan Bello is here. He's going to join me on that one. But we'll take a break first. We'll take the text messages first. And then we'll take, I think this is Nkrumah and Faith Boanye? Yeah, I believe so. There's a lot we'll talk about historically and the historical analysis tonight. Fatih, what are people saying about cocoa?
Okay, so Alexander Sefa says, what the NDC are doing is an insult to the cocoa farmers. They are insulting their intelligence. The farmers are happy with their increments while the NDC are going round telling the farmers the government have cheated them. Are they the ones going to decide for them? Nikweko says, we've been selling raw cocoa beans for over 60 years. Where are the factories to these raw products into finished products? I mean, we are in serious crisis. We can produce tons of beans or cocoa beans, but we can never grow tomatoes for ourselves. Let this sink in. Bernard Dancer says, good evening, Paul Adomache. I think the cocoa politics by the politicians, especially the NDC, is a cheap populist and grand scheme to deceive and incite the cocoa farmers against the government. But that isn't going to wash. The cocoa farmers are very much aware of the efforts of the government in the cocoa sector of the country's economy. Coming from Nano Uzi says, Paul, cutting off cocoa trees is true. I inherited about 50-acre cocoa from the Sehi, and the government has cut them and replanted for last 2 years. They also paid me and planted plantain, also for which I am enjoying. NDC never again. Coming from Dixon Amankwai says, Paul, isn't it sad that the argument has never been which political party has built more cocoa processing factories or added value to the cocoa value chain, but which party is buying to sell at a price? Coming from Citizen Francis, he says, in the Asin North by-election, the NDC pledged to pay cocoa farmers around Ghana City's 1,000 per bag if elected. Now the government has raised the cocoa price from Ghana City's 800 to 1,300 per bag due to the market conditions. It seems that they've shifted from their earlier promise in Asin North 3 months ago. Nevertheless, cocoa farmers are content and grateful for the government's new price. This is coming from Alhaji Jabril. He says, this cocoa price increment and its matters arising is very worrying. The NDC said they would have increased the cocoa price to Ghana Cedis 2,800, and the NPP is also saying that they have done what is right. And lastly, coming from Adriana Bakok, he says, Mr. Paul, kindly help me wish a special someone happy birthday to whom I know, who continues to inspire the youth with his wisdom, strength, and grace. September finest, I see him, I see future. Happy birthday to you, Lawyer Patrick Yaobuama. Angelo.
Kwesi Reynolds from Akwena Odobing says, once again, Paul has done justice to the issue While farmers are happy, the NDC members are worried. Their own wahala. Well, Taufik from Ketikraji says, Paul, what I think about this cocoa debate is that the NDC communicators were quick to spread lies. Well, lies is a very strong word. As usual, leaving the NPP communicators to always react. The NPP communication team must be a bit proactive, I think. Now, Mark, watching us from the USA, says, Paul, we have a confit juice in the US as well. It's not only for the local Ghanaian markets, it's earning Forex for Ghana. Cheers. Cheers to you, Mark, also. Yamusa says, kudos to you and your brilliant team. In fact, I wish you were a politician because you have exposed the NDC and John Mahama. So when will John Mahama change? Greetings to the CEO of Valco. Now, Adam Alhaji says, watching you live from Mamobi Accra with my best friends, Mr. Ibrahim Lukman, and the youth must change. General Coleman says, the NDC must stop their noise about the cocoa price increases. Must we do politics with everything? After all, the ordinary Ghanaian cocoa farmer stands to benefit. Emmanuel Jermaine says, it's like the NDC is too quiet for my liking. Everything politics in Ghana nowadays is about the NPP. At least the NDC should create something that will make media talk about them. Emmanuel Jermaine is being a bit mischievous. And then I'll read something very briefly for you. So this says, Ayesoko, excuse me, Betway's cash out just got way better. Our enhanced early, partial, and auto cash out feature lets you cash out your bets early, cash out a portion of your ongoing bets, or even set your bets to cash out automatically. All this to give you way more control over every thrilling place you bet. Sign up today, right now, at betway.com.gh. Terms and conditions do apply. This is regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana and no under 18 betting. Betway, get way more. The Makers Electronics Ghana says, it's the Makers Electronics Blessing Attack promo. Rush to the Makers Electronics Company Limited for up to 67% discount on selected appliances such as Samsung, LG, Moved, Nasco, TCL, Midea, and Toshiba. Quality but affordable with 2 years manufacturer defect warranty. Visit our showrooms at Taifa Burkina Highway, Amasambanzongo Junction, Oyarifa Taiman Boga Junction, Kaswan U Market, Ashaiman Valco Flat, Komase Ahenema Kokobing, Takrade Efie Number 9 Market, and call us on 055 2222 253 or 055 2222 254. The Makers Electronics Company Limited, large and in charge with quality but affordable home appliances and consumer electronics. Again, we have for you Black Stars Press from Black Stars Press Limited. Inside Black Star Press Limited, we grow businesses inside the inventive minds, evolving concepts and the creative trends. Black Star Press Limited is the printing press you need now. Witness the beauty, diversity, and natural wonder with our works. Inside Black Star Press Limited, in association with Lionhead Group of Companies, call us on 0200 88 0000 for all your print works. Black Star Press Limited, a worldwide reputation for quality printing. And lastly for you, we have from, of course, our friends at Lifts and Elevators. Enjoy the fruits of your labor, they say, but as humans, aging and physical infirmities stand in the way of enjoying our mansions and homes. It often becomes challenging, if not impossible, to use our stairways day in, day out. Worry no more, because with the portable American pneumatic vacuum elevators, you are sure of unlimited enjoyment of your mansions or homes. You may call it a luxury, but it's a necessary imperative for vertical mobility. Do not let aging or infirmity limit you. Visit Lifts and Elevators Ghana at Sakumono for your solutions and free consultations. Call us now, write this number down, 0200 535 515, or email elevatorsgh@gmail.com. To you, Paul.
Okay, so we take a short break. When we come back, we get to the touch screen and we do our academic analysis. Please stay tuned. It's going to be very interesting. We're still on Good Evening Ghana. I'll be right back after the break.
Michelle,
Different era, better result. Time has changed and time has brought Kel Choco Toothpaste. Healthy gums, anti-cavity, fresher breath, and it whitens teeth. Kel Choco Toothpaste. Sankofa.
Yenchi. Kel Choco Toothpaste.
Happy smile.
This advert is FDA approved.
Betway is your gateway to a theme park full of gaming excitement. A whirlpool of wonder where your favorite games come to life. Where you can take to the skies with max payouts that reach into the millions. All in the palm of your hand. Visit betway.com.gh. Terms and conditions apply. Betway is regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. No under 18. Bet responsibly. Betway. Bet your way.
In life, choice is good, but choice plus safety is way better. Your safety and comfort is paramount. Under the cylinder recirculation model, you can buy LPG in a safe environment. All cylinders are inspected and maintained to the best safety standards, so your safety is assured. Just take your empty cylinder to the nearest exchange point and swap it for a filled cylinder. Different cylinder sizes will be available to meet your pocket size. Imagine cooking in a smoke-free environment. This will improve the health and well-being of you and your family. Choose LPG in a safer model of distribution. Cylinder recirculation model. Securing your safety, creating more jobs. A message from the National Petroleum Authority under the patronage of the Ministry of Energy.
The accessibility, call it luxury, but it's a necessary imperative for vertical mobility. Do not let aging or infirmity limit you. Get one for your easy vertical mobility at home. It's affordable and can be installed in just 3 days without modification to your existing building. It's however easier to incorporate it at the construction stage. We also have traditional Fuji elevators and escalators for your high-rise buildings and malls. Visit Lifts and Elevators Company Limited at Sakumono for your elevators nationwide. For free consultation to call or WhatsApp us on 0200-535-515. Lifts and Elevators, the elevator people.
Sometimes the unexpected happens and the hero falls down in his own story. But he needs not stay down for long. Cosmopolitan Health Insurance is your trusted health partner. Whether an individual building a business, with Cosmopolitan Health Insurance, your medical care is our concern. For the best health insurance solutions for corporate institutions, groups and associations, families and individuals, choose Cosmopolitan Health Insurance from our over 700 accredited health service providers nationwide. Call us on 0302 540 668 or 0501 678 547 for all your health insurance solutions. Cosmopolitan Health Insurance, your medical care is our concern.
My son, there's more blessing in giving than receiving. When you fear for you and couple the makers in
The pneumatological abrasion of the Lord revealeth unto me this night that me and my household should go out into the world and bless the world.
Makers Electronics Company Limited. Up to 67% discount. Our selected appliances.
This is what I call quintessential immaculatability.
The Makers Electronics Company Limited. Taifa Burkina Highway. Amasama Zongo Junction. At the K Pharmacy Dining. Oyer Fateman Boga Junction. Ashaman Falco Flat. Kumasi. Ahinema Kokobin. Asafu Bwache Hospital Junction. Sakradi. Number 9 Market.
And tell mom and dad about the Makers Blessing Attack promo.
From 0552 222 253 and 0552 222 254. Terms and conditions apply.
Yama Wakwaba, the band Nadum Auto Fix and Accessories. Ahadie, a bando KSC near Wakadia. Ubenya Viviaha. Kabian in the house, any new here. Yansu ye were winning the four, or best son, ye amount. Nadum Auto Fix and Accessories, ye you did ye. 24/7. Ye CCU engine, brake, battery, yes, a sour tie. Say bando car wash dia. Ye were abe from fidelity says steamer, ye the whole car engine, a brand sion core engine him. Ye sign ye detailing, metre say, ye bet you car no baby amount. Ye ya sa polish car namao, kama. And young way no monku, ye sato car batteries. Ties, rims, any the keke count. Manadum Auto Fix and Accessories, Emma Oka, and Sini Dadem, then where you mamma. Shisha Yechida Quine wa down Suman, I saw it down who are any KFC boy Henimu, a one crying. So open information, announce and Bisebia, Fresh 024 651 9369. Nadum Auto Fix and Accessories, O Quine so young papa.
Welcome back to the show. Thank you very much for your time. And now we get into the controversial historical conversation. It's not a modern controversy, so it might not spark too many. All right. We're going to discuss this matter. And Bello is keeping an eye on what I'm doing. He will say a few things when we are through. We're going to discuss this matter of the coup. When I heard that people were talking about the justification of coups around Africa, the big one that was well justified by some of our people was the Gabon one. And the justification of the Gabon coup was about the fact that Omar Bongo had stayed long. So as we were thinking about it and thinking about the story, it's a story, so we think about it. As we're thinking about the story and asking ourselves, what are we going to do about this story? It then occurred to me that I had written a dissertation in 2007 or so when I had done an analysis of what we call security sector governance. SSG. Security sector governance is a theory that came up around the time the BRICS came up, and it was thought that the healthiness of a country's SSG determines the stability of the country. It was during the period when a guy called Paul Collier wrote a book entitled The Bottom Billion, in which he made an argument that periodic elections is actually bad for Africa. Collier made that argument very strongly, that periodic elections is bad for Africa. He looked at the case of Botswana and Mauritius and countries like that and thought that if you look at those countries, you will see that because they don't have periodic elections, they have done well. That every time there's an election in sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, there's a dip in the economy and there are crises that has to be recovered. And so those countries, the election cycle after election cycle come down and then they have to go up. So they kind of stay where they are over 20, 30 years. He made a very important revolutionary point in a book entitled The Bottom Billion. Around the same time, there was conversation among development economics that the security sector governance is the basic way in which you can measure a country's stability. So the security sector governance was the relationship between institutions of states. That's how it's measured. The military is important, parliament, judiciary, the media, the general public, civil service. Those relations and correlations, how smooth they are is what determines the healthiness of security sector governance. So I wrote on the role of security sector governance in the political outcomes of Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. And at that time, I was talking about this stability and the coup. So I was very interested in this coup story. There's been a coup in Niger, there's been a coup in Burkina Faso, there's a coup in Mali, there's a coup in Gabon. And the concern was that this is perhaps getting to our doorstep in Africa. And then people started playing the video the interview I had with the commanding Archbishop, as I like to call him, the commanding Papa Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams. I've not seen him in a very long time. I owe him 1,000 visits. Tell Papa that I owe him 1,000 visits. I'll be coming. Okay. I had an interview with him where he talked about the Arab Spring and how that's going to hit West Africa. And it was even interpreted that his prophecy has come true with all of these coups. So then I began to look at Ghana and we started analyzing the possibility of a coup in Ghana, could there not? And then we discussed with ourselves, why is it that there's no coup in Ghana? Why is it that there couldn't be a coup in Ghana? So we put up this thesis. Now, I have to say that having advertised it a few times, people have called me about what I wanted to say, and I've discussed with them, and they have made an input into it. So tonight I'll be repeating some of those inputs that have been made by important people when I spoke to them about the theory. Now it's time to go to the touch screen and tell you this, what I mean by this. Okay. So, this is one of my favorite moments when we get to the thesis and the academic period. This is purely academic, and I enjoy it. We're going to deal with it. This is Kwame Nkrumah, and this is Lee Kuan Yew. I put them together not because they are the same, because Nkrumah was voted by the BBC as the greatest African of the century ahead of Nelson Mandela. Lee Kuan Yew is great, but in terms of his global spread, Nkrumah perhaps had bigger footprint, fundamentally because Nkrumah and his Pan-Africanism is really what made the difference. Apart from leading Ghana into elections, leading Ghana into the first African country, Sub-Sahara, to be independent, Nkrumah was a great Pan-Africanist, perhaps the best, and he attracted a lot of intellect from America, from W.B. Du Bois and all of that. And all of that put Nkrumah together as a stronger global figure than Lee Kuan Yew, for sure. Nkrumah led a country whose population was bigger, a country who had more resources, a country who had better resources than Singapore. And in the 50s and 60s, Ghana was a more important country than Singapore, I beg to say. But today, Singapore is a stronger country than Ghana, also, I beg to say. Now, the coup conversation is about those who are, and I'm speaking practically to my Uncle Kwesi Pratt and other Nkrumahist and all those people who talk about why the coups may be justified. You will notice in the coup narrative, you will notice the left and right divide, political left and political right. You will notice that in the conversation. So when you have a leader like Omar Bongo, who is a right wing, left actors are excited that he's been removed. When you have a leader like Paul Kagame, who is left-wing in outlook, then left-wing people are happy that Paul Kagame is reported to be doing well. But then there's a common denominator that they all talk about, why the coups are happening. And the coups happen, and we justify them on the basis that the leader has stayed too long. In the case of Omar Bongo, for instance, he was thought to have stayed 70-something years together with his father. Mobutu Sese Seko was the same. Charles Sergeant Doe was the same. In Burkina Faso, Blaise Compaoré for a long time. So it appears that the constitutional coup, what Al-Hassan Bello calls constitutional coup, is becoming the main precursor to those coups that we call justified. Notice I use the word justified, not legal, and I'll come to why I'm saying that. So those coups that we think justified are those coups that we seem to suggest that there has been a constitutional coup. The leader has made amendments. He cannot be removed. They've changed the law. They've changed this. They've changed that. He now controls everything. Those are the coups those are the governments that we justify coups against. Is that not so? Now, the reason why Ghana is not there is what I'm coming to. Nkrumah was dictatorial. There's no doubt about that. And you can't even say that was wrong. Lee Kuan Yew too appeared dictatorial. The difference between the two of them, though, was that whereas Nkrumah curtailed elections, occasioned the constitutional coup, and I'm going to show you the details of the constitutional coup, how he did it. A constitutional coup simply means that you take the constitution, change it, and make yourself the life president. Nkrumah did that. And therefore, after 1951, 54, 56, 57, and the 1960 plebiscite, there was going to be no other election to select a president, because in 1964, when the elections were due, an amendment to the constitution was made. It took place in 65. And therefore, Nkrumah put himself in a situation where one cannot remove him. The same as has happened right now in Rwanda. I'll show you about Rwanda as well. So when that happened, if the coup had not occurred, Ghana would have been a one-party state, not just in that period from 66, but it would have continued up to about, when we grew up to right politics, Bedema was alive. If Nkrumah had lived as long as Bedema lived, Nkrumah would have been alive in 1994, 96. 92, certainly Nkrumah would have been alive. And he would have been president from 1951 to 1992. That's what would have happened. That's what would have happened. And the data is there. I'm going to show it to you. Now, that is the reason why I say in this analysis that the reason why Ghana is not where we are is because of the events of 24th February 1966. The people who took the gun to illegally but justifiably overthrow the Nkrumah government and set a standard for Ghana that we can never have a president who says, I want to be president for life. We can never and we should never have a one-party state in Ghana. That's what has brought us from there. And now I build the analysis. Okay, so let's get on. This is Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew continued to win elections after election after election. I'll show you a video of something that he said. That's Paul Kagame. Okay, now let's come to the 1960 Constitution. Give me the 1960 Constitution. All right. And these sentiments about the permanence of Nkrumah as leader of Ghana had begun in the 1960 Constitution. Here is Article 10 of the Republican Constitution of 1960. It says as follows: Kwame Nkrumah is hereby appointed first president of Ghana, having been chosen as such before the enactment of the Constitution set out in Article 1 of the Constitution. So, the Constitution, and the Ghana Bar Association at the time raised these matters. A constitution should not have a name of a person. So the 1992 Constitution is, there shall be a president of Ghana who shall do so and so and so. There shall be a chief justice who shall do so and so and so. We don't write in the Constitution, Gertrude Araba Esaba Tokonu shall be the chief justice. When you do that, it means that when Gertrude is not the chief justice, the law doesn't work. Or it is illegal for another person to be chief justice other than Gertrude. Here is 1960 Constitution. It didn't say there shall be a president. No. It says Kwame Nkrumah is hereby appointed first president of Ghana, having been chosen as such before the enactment of this Constitution. Kwame Nkrumah is hereby appointed by the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't appoint presidents. The constitutions make provision for president and the people elect one into the office. It doesn't appoint president. But this is the 1960 Constitution appointing Kwame Nkrumah as president. So the sentiments had begun at the time. Okay, let's look at Article 11 of the 1960 Constitution. An election of a president shall be held whenever one of the following events occur. That is to say, the National Assembly is dissolved, or the president dies, or the president resigns from office. An election for a president shall be held in these following. This is Article 11. It doesn't talk about the end of a term. It doesn't say that. It says, when an election of a president shall be held whenever the following occurs. 1, the National Assembly is dissolved, and the National Assembly can be dissolved by the president. The president dies, or the president resigns. So if the president hasn't died, the president hasn't resigned, technically, and the 1960s election, or parliament has not been dissolved, and it gets dissolved by the president, technically on the 1960s Constitution. That's it. So the sentiments are started in 1960. But I'll show you what happened in 1964. Okay. Article 11 says, where a person has been declared by the Chief Justice to be elected as president, his election shall not be questioned in any court. Again, the things that we see in Cote d'Ivoire that we don't like, it was in Ghana, something called a constitutional court. They declare elections. So here, in Article 11 of the 1960 Constitution, there was no independent body called the Electoral Commission. It doesn't work. If ever there's a presidential election, it says that where that person has been declared by the Lord Chief Justice to have been elected as the president, he shall not be questioned in any court. So when the Lord Chief Justice says that Kwame Nkrumah has been elected as president, that's the end of the story. You can't. These were the sentiments that had begun in the 1960 Constitution, which was strengthened in the 1964 Constitution. This is the raw historical fact. I mean, I know people are going to be concerned about it, but this is the historical fact. If you open the 1960 Constitution, you see this there. And if you see this at Article 1 of the Constitution of 1960 and you don't think that the analysis is correct, please tell us. Okay. Are we on 64 already? Is it 64? Let me know. Is it 64? Yes. Okay. So now this is you should have given me a title of 64. We now have the 1964 amendment. So the coup occurred in 1966. Okay. So Nkrumah changes from the British parliamentary system. And mind you, Lee Kuan Yew never changed from the British parliamentary system. He continued to stand as prime minister and be elected and be elected and be elected. He didn't stop elections. He continued to win elections. But he was very similar to Nkrumah in terms of his dictatorial tendencies. Where Nkrumah had PDA in Ghana, Lee Kuan Yew has something similar in Singapore, where people will get arrested because you are opposing the state. Lee did all that. But he didn't stop the people from deciding who should be their leader, from deciding whether they should vote or not. He went through the process. And that's why when he turned 95, Parliament held a special session for him to address the House. That's what Lee did. But he was also dictatorial. He would defend the dictatorial tendencies during the campaigns for his party. Okay, so here's now the constitutional amendment. So 1960 there was election. An election was to follow in 1965. In 1964, Osagyefo decided that there's no point in having that election. Why don't you just have me as president forever? That's what we're going to do in Ghana, isn't it? All right, now let's read it. Article 1. The Republic of Ghana shall be a unitary republic with a single political party, the Convention People's Party, as the sole legal political organization in Ghana. Maybe this is why sometimes they don't like the history. But this ever happened in Ghana? This is the amendment to the 1960 Constitution, now the 1964 Constitution. This is what it is. The Republic of Ghana shall be a unitary republic with a single political party, the Convention People's Party, as the sole legal political organization in Ghana. That was the amendment. This is the amendment. The same thing Omar Bongo is doing today because he didn't have the benefits of 1966. The same thing that Paul Kagame has done. The same thing that Blaise Kampohari did. This was Nkrumah was doing it in 1964. Okay. So then the CPP, his party, is the only legal political party in Ghana. Let's move on. Article 2. The President of the Republic of Ghana shall be the President for life of the Republic and the Convention People's Party. He shall have the power to appoint and remove any public officer, including members of the Supreme Court and the National Assembly. Now viewers tell me, is this not perhaps worse than Omar Bongo? This is what it is. Article 2 of the Republican Constitution as amended by Osagyefo and the Convention People's Party. It reads as follows. The President of the Republic of Ghana shall be the President for life of the Republic and of the Convention People's Party. He shall have the power to appoint and remove any public officer, including members of the Supreme Court and the National Assembly, which is Parliament. So the President, under the 1964 amendment to the Constitution, was able to remove members of Parliament and also remove the court, and he is there for life. Kwame Nkrumah is there for life under the amendment. He will remove Supreme Court judges however he wants. He can also remove members of Parliament. It doesn't matter whether you've been elected by anybody, because it's the CPP that elected you to Parliament, because that's the only political party. He's the boss of the CPP. He can tell you that, Kofi Minta, sorry, brah, listen, you are no longer a member of Parliament. Get out. And say, Paul Ademosu, go and sit there. You're a member of Parliament. And that was legal under Article 2 of the 1964 Constitutional Amendment. There's more to come on the 64 Constitutional Amendment. So these were the circumstances of what was happening at the time. Now, if you compare it to what is happening today, and we talk about justifying the coup against Gabon, it's not legal, because the legal is technical. A legality of an action of a coup is technical. It cannot be legal because the government is legal. The Constitution 1964 was legal. The Constitution that Nkrumah was dealing with was legal. It was not illegal. It was legal. As somebody says, apartheid used to be legal. Yes, indeed it was. Even aspects of the Second World War were legal. So legal just means it goes through the legal legitimacy, the process. But there's legal legitimacy, there's political legitimacy, and there's popular legitimacy. And one can have popular legitimacy without having legal legitimacy. If you look at the coup in Niger, you can think of it as something like that. It may have popular legitimacy, it doesn't have legal legitimacy. It may have military legitimacy, but it doesn't have political, constitutional legitimacy. It doesn't have it. It may have political legitimacy and popular legitimacy. It doesn't have constitutional legitimacy. So that's the concept of legitimacy that we can deal with for a long time. So no coup d'etat against a certain government can be said to be legal. Even if it's against a military government, it can be said to be mutiny. All right, so let's get on to it. So this is the situation in Ghana at the time. Nkrumah wanted to be life president, which he got. And he wanted to be able to sack Supreme Court judges, which he got. And he also wanted to be able to remove members of Parliament, all of which is provided for and guaranteed by Article 2 of the Constitution. Let's move on. Article 3. The National Assembly shall consist of members appointed by the President from among persons who are members of the Convention People's Party. The National Assembly shall have the power to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance of Ghana, subject to the approval of the President. That's Article 3 of the Constitution. So everything was really about the President. The National Assembly shall consist of members appointed by the President. So here was Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the leader of the country. He is going to appoint members of Parliament, and he can take them out anytime. He's going to appoint Supreme Court judges. He is there for life. And the members of Parliament will do the laws with his approval. He's the President of Ghana. That's guaranteed in Article 3 of the amendments to the Constitution. Article 6. The national flag of Ghana shall be a horizontal tricolor of red, white, and green, with a black star in the center of the white strip. The red color shall stand for the blood of those who died in the country's struggle for independence. The white color shall stand for the purity and loyalty, and the green color shall stand for the rich forest and natural resources of Ghana. The black star shall be the symbol of African emancipation and unity. And this is how it looked like. This is Ghana flag. Red, white, green, with the black star in the middle to mimic the CPP flag. All of this was provided for. So in 1964, Ghana was completely changing, including changing the flag. We used to have gold here. Nkrumah wanted a white, black star, green, and red. This is it. This was the new flag of Ghana, which was restored after the coup. So that if you look at all of that, you will now see where we were in the case that we're going to make. All right. Now, in 1962, this was published in Parliament. This is the graphic of Thursday, August 30, 1962. Parliament meets next Tuesday. It says, make Osagyefo the life president. It's coming from an MP. It's as follows. Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah will become life president of Ghana if a private member's motion is adopted when Parliament begins sitting on Tuesday. The House will also be called upon to adopt a one-party system of government for the country. These are among 8 private members' motions listed on the agenda published yesterday. The first private member's motion stands in the name of Mr. W.A. Amoro Bongo. Amoro is the MP for Bongo, who will ask the House to congratulate Osagyefo on his escape from the recent bomb attack at Kulungugu and to urge all citizens to be alive to their responsibility for the maintenance of the security of the state. Mr. Amoro's motion will also wish Osagyefo long life and good health and call on the House to express its confidence in his leadership and to associate itself with the popular desire that he should continue in office as president for the remainder of his life. The motion on the one-party system of government stands in the name of Mr. S.I. Idrisu Dagomba North, a former ministerial secretary in the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Okay, so that's the amendment that went to Parliament. Now, so upon all of these conversations, Nkrumah takes over and all of that, there was concern. And if you read Afrifa's book, The Ghana Coup, he talks about how they were convinced as senior military officers to take up the gun because Osagyefo had occasioned a constitutional coup that needed to be overthrown. Afifa didn't call it a constitutional coup. It's Bello who calls it like that. But Afifa said Osagyefo had amended the constitution such that he has to be there forever, and that was going to create a problem for Ghana in the long term. And that is why we say that today Ghana is immune from this kind of situation because we have dealt with it. That's the whole point. Why are there no coups in Ghana? Yes, I hear the CDS talking to journalists saying that they understand there's no coup. They understand that there will not be a coup because they've seen what coups can do. I've heard all of that. But what is the reason for coup then? Because there's no constitution that's making anybody a life president. As for the events of the reasons why coup occurred, the economic reasons, Rawlings did a coup in 1979. He was president until 1989. Somebody could have done a coup against him in 1990 for the same reasons that he did a coup in 1979. Same. Achampon did a coup against Buzia. The reasons that he gave were the same reasons that Rawlings gave for overthrowing him. So if you look at economics, you will always find a reason to overthrow a government if it's about economics. But we are all saying that the justifiable coup is not about economics because economics fluctuates. The justifiable coup is about the one where an individual has taken the constitution, changed it, and clothed himself with all powers that he is life president. Omar Bongo and his father ruled Gabon for 56 years. Blaise Compaoré, since he overthrew Sankara 30 years ago, he's been president. Paul Kagame. Now let's see what Paul Kagame has been doing. Let's look at the Paul Kagame one. Briefly, let's look at the Paul Kagame one and get ready with the link on YouTube. So this is Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, who is being praised across the world for doing something fantastic with Rwanda, and we recognize that, don't we? Paul Kagame recently announced that he was going to be in power for longer. And now when the coup came in Gabon, we heard that he has sacked all his military chiefs, he's changing them. So this is the story. Activists criticize constitutional change to extend Kagame's rule. That's what always happens. Why must there be a need for a constitutional change to extend Kagame's rule? Why is there a need for that to happen? Kagame is popular. Kagame is doing well as a president. Why doesn't he face the election? like Lee Kuan Yew was doing. Lee won elections in 60, 63, 67, 69, 71. He won until 80s. He was winning elections. He doesn't stop the election. Lee fights the election. He goes and comes and he's winning till his son came to win. So why does Paul Kagame think that in 2023 he should go and take constitution, amend it to extend his term, and then we say that there are too many coups in Africa? That's the point. That's why sometimes I agree with Bello. Has the African Union seen this? Has the Rwanda is where? Rwanda is east. The COMESA, have they seen this? Has the SADC seen? One day we were sitting down, they say Paul Kagame has amended the constitution to extend his rule. In Ghana, we dealt with it on 24th February 1966. Nkrumah took the constitution and changed it around. Great as Nkrumah was. And this is the map of Africa that shows how many were in a one-party state in 1960. This is the map that shows how many were in a one-party state in 1960. Algeria, Mauritania, Mali, Niger, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, Senegal, Chad, Central African Republic, Cameroon, Gabon. Cameroon, Paul Biya is still there. Paul Biya has been in the news since I was a child. And Cameroonian leader Paul Biya. The time they used to mention Paul Biya, they used to mention Margaret Thatcher as British Prime Minister. They used to mention Ronald Reagan as American President. It was in the same context. They used to mention Pope John Paul as the pontiff of the Catholic Church. It was in the same context they mentioned Paul Biya as the Cameroonian leader. Up till today, Paul Biya is still the Cameroonian leader. We hear that he also called his military chief and said, I've sacked all of you. You want to overthrow me. You think I've been here for 79 years or what? So this is the African map. Get me back the Afrifa people where I was. Yeah. So that's the get me back Afrifa and Nkrumah. Yes. So this is the story. The reason why there's no coup in Ghana is that we dealt with it. Now we should now come back and put the 1966 coup in context and deal with it. Okay, let me give you the counter argument. So I had this conversation with our senior Kweku Bako on this matter, and he made some points that I'll say now. So he said to me, for instance, that in making this analysis, I should add that Nkrumah's one-party state did not last long enough to be tested so that people can see where it's going. They didn't last long for it to get tested. That's what he said. Well, you can deal with it. He also said that whatever it is, the coup against Nkrumah was illegal, and I agree with him. It was justified, but in terms of legality, it was illegal once it's overthrowing a stable government that has a constitution. If the constitution is bad or not is another matter, but that's the constitution. So yes, he made that point. He also said that the African governments that did the one-party state, I should check the outcome. He mentions Kenya, for instance. And you know that Kenya was Kenyatta, then to Arab Moi for a long time, and then Moi Kibaki and all that. And the Moi Kibaki came out of Arab Moi. Arab Moi came out of Jomo Kenyatta. So it was a kind of same party that was there for a long time. But that's an argument that I'm presenting to you to decide what you want to do with it. Zambia, he says, also had longevity. Zimbabwe had longevity until recently. But I'm saying that Ghana could have had longevity until the time that Nkrumah's real demise would come and would have blown up into smithereens like how some of these other countries are blowing up. But he says that Zambia is an example. Chiluba came in and through elections, he overthrew Kenneth Kaunda. So you will find all of those epochs in election. Once Nkrumah says there can be no election in Ghana anymore since 1960, I will be president for life. Not just that, but I will take Supreme Court judges out. I will appoint members of... Once you have that situation, you are at a cul-de-sac. And that's where FIFA came in. So the reason why we don't have this in Ghana, and I have to be ending because this is a long time now, is because the heroes of 24th February, Nkrumah calls them the traitors of 24th February, but back to history about 70 years later, we call them the heroes of 24th February. They're the reason why we won't have that in Ghana, because we will never have a president in Ghana who is a one-party state, who is this and that. Sorry about that. We won't have a president who is a one-party state, who is controlling the Supreme Court. No, we have given to ourselves a 1992 constitution, which we will amend, but the fundamentals will stay. That's the end of the theory. It's 18 minutes past 11. Do you have a text for me? Fatia, let's hear you. And then I'll come to Bello for his remarks.
All right. Sigrid Jonas says, quite educative. This is the most reason I will always choose Good Evening Ghana over any program in this country. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah never mean anything good for this country. Jonathan Nee says, why are these hidden from the history books from JHS to SHS? Our children needs to know the truth of our story. Coming from Paul Kwesi Wright, he says, Paul, what happened to the CCP flag? I think it's very nice. That would have been great if it was maintained. Coming from Nana Kwek Ojo, he says, I have learned a lot. This is called a very good program. Angela, what do you have for us?
Right, son of Mariam says, this is a free lecture for law students. We highly appreciate this, Paul. Nana Kweku says, I can't believe the Kwame Nkrumah, we all idolized did this, and some people accused the UP for its overthrow. Indeed. Now, Elom Kwame Phillips says, I wonder how Nkrumaists like Kwesi Pratt justify that unlawful behavior of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Well, there'll be an asterisk on the word unlawful. Anyway, back to you, Paul.
Bello, what do you think?
Well, I think we need to put that particular situation in context. At the time, one-party state was a trend across the third world, which Ghana was part. That was one. And secondly, was the era of the Cold War. There was less emphasis on democracy. So if we put Nkrumah's decision out of that era, it generally appears wrong.
That era is Lee Kuan Yew's era too.
Yeah, but then, if you look
at Malaysia's era too.
If you look at Lee Kuan Yew and his colleagues in Asia, Lee Kuan Yew was the only exception because the like of Suharto and Sukarno are not different. But let's come back to Africa within our context at the time. And moreover, Lee Kuan Yew had an advantage that Nkrumah never had. Lee Kuan Yew had a country that is almost dominated by ethnic Chinese.
You mean one ethnic group?
Yeah, absolutely dominated by ethnic Chinese, with a few people of Malay origin who are the initial inhabitants of the land.
But Nigeria was not a member of an example of the one-party state.
Nigeria, from onset, has a divide between the north and the south. And there's always this need for horse trading.
Okay, so the point you're making is that it would look, the picture will look different if you're comparing it in another epoch.
Yeah,
if you are looking at the context of
within which it
of 1960s,
and look at it within the context of Africa's geopolitics at that time, you understand why most Africans at that time had one-party states.
Yes, the one-party state was there, but there were one-party states that elections were occurring.
Well, that could be the excess
of Kenya.
That could be the excess of Nkrumah on his part.
And also, there were one-party states where members of parliament were not appointed by the president.
But moreover,
they were elected too.
But even if you look at Lee Kuan Yew, even Lee Kuan Yew in person, remember in the parliamentary system, you don't elect the leader.
Yeah.
You elect the party, and then the party decide. So had Lee Kuan Yew lost his position as the leader of the party at the time, he would have even lost his position. But then, if you look at the fact 1960, we moved away from, what do you call it? Parliamentary
to presidential.
Presidential, I mean you have to elect an individual.
Yes.
That also changed the situation. But then
that's the issue. We moved to elect an individual. So the elective principle was always part of it.
I'm saying that we need to look at the Cold War context. Was the coup actually orchestrated because Nkrumah was being a dictator? It was just a fig leaf. Because the coup had an ideological issue behind it. Nkrumah was ousted, and the whole of CPP was banned from that era to 92.
Yes, the coup had an ideological tone, of course. Yes,
so it was more of a geopolitical issue around the time than more about the constitutionality of Nkrumah's decision in Ghana at the time.
But the Ghanaian people from the record appear to have been excited about the coup.
Why were they banned on Nkrumah's picture? Why was there a ban on CPP? That was why Liman could even use the name CPP. Now to use the name PNP to contest election.
No, that ban was for everybody. You can't use the old name, it's for everybody. You can't use UP, you can't use NLM, you can't use...
When Rollins passed the indemnity clause, it says every coup plotter from 1966, right?
Yeah.
Up to his time. We all know every coup plotter was killed by Rollins. Only he was alive. He was shielding himself.
No. The 1969 had indemnity clause. 1979 had indemnity clause.
No, but when Rollins' context, he was shielding himself because he dealt with everybody. So if having dealt with everybody, then there was no need for you to even have indemnity clause in 92. Because you've dealt with everybody has been dealt with.
Not everybody has been dealt with. Asking people who have done coups.
In his house cleaning exercise, there was a summary execution of leaders.
He killed the leaders. So Major Salome, I don't know if I've heard that name before.
Okay.
Major Salome is the architect of the Champon coup. He's probably still alive.
But
Captain Sou, they were coup plotters. So in 92 is protecting Kuplo. Not everybody died. A champion died, a Kufu, they are the bosses, but there were other people who were coup
But
plotters.
between the big fish and the small fish, who are supposed to be dealt with in military, we do with the high command, the chain of command.
No, coup plotters is coup plotter.
No, I'm saying that in the military, when order is given, you first of all deal with those who give the orders.
Yes.
So by dealing with the big fish and bringing the law to protect the so-called coup plotters, he factored himself in. So the context of banning every name entirely, we all know that the logical.
But General Quenu was with Rawlings in the coup
But then if you look at, we all know that the logical divide at the time, right?
In 60 or 92.
In 60, when Nkrumah was overthrown, we all know that the logical divide. And one side was totally victimized. Because Busia served as a part of the government.
So the point what's interesting is that you left-wing people, because Nkrumah is left-wing, Nkrumah's dictatorial tendencies are okay. I want to appoint judges and remove them. I'm the only one appointing all members. That's why somebody wrote a text and said, I wonder what Kwesi Pratt will say about these things.
I always say this everywhere.
These things happened.
There's one thing I see everywhere. I don't believe in heroship from Nkrumah.
Oh, it's even okay, but the things that happen that are wrong.
Let's apportion his blame to him.
Yeah.
But then the fact remains that the coup has a geopolitical calculation like every other coup in that era.
It will every coup even today will have a geopolitical calculation.
But then
there'll be geopolitical, there'll be economics, there'll be
if you look at the coup very well, if you look at the lopsided approach to dealing with the post-coup issue, you could see who the coup favors, why, and from who it favors, we can begin to examine why it took place in the first instance.
Yes, but if you look at the constitutional amendment, you see it was targeted. The one-party state there were two parties, and he said one party. So the other party felt that it was about them.
Ghana became independent in 1957, right? And Nkrumah stayed in a democratic system up to 1960. There was a plebiscite on election. There was a process. So in which context was the one-party state itself created? Because if I were to be Nkrumah and my life was threatened, I would do same. Perhaps I also want, for example, the PDA. I said one time about the PDA that I agree with it in principle, but implementation for me 5 years before trial is a bit harsh. But if my life is threatened, I don't negotiate.
But if today the president of Ghana's life is threatened, you should turn the country into a one-party state because life is threatened?
We need to box in the era.
Which era? You say his life is threatened, so Akufo-Addo's life is threatened, and he decides that I don't
Today, for example, democracy is the trend across the continent. That is why we agitated against the coup d'etat. In that era, one-party state was a trend. That was less agitation. That was one. Secondly,
one-party state was a trend because it was somebody's ideology. People didn't participate in making themselves one-party states. That is why all the one-party states collapsed after people pressure. And Kweku Baku made that point. All of it was people. In Zambia, it was people pressure. People coming out on the streets, demonstrating against it. In Zimbabwe, same.
In Zambia,
people came out to demonstrate against Mugabe.
No. In Mugabe's case, it was two factions within ZANU-PF fighting. And the one that has lost the political game decided to use the gun. And that is why that was, legally in Zimbabwe, there was no coup d'etat.
It was a resignation of the president.
Yeah. He was threatened with impeachment. So de facto, there was a coup. De jure, there was no coup.
No, we're changing the argument. We're talking about one-party states across.
So when we look at what point did Zambia become a multi-party state? In the 90s.
90s, yes.
That was because post-structural adjustment, post the collapse of Soviet Union, the one-party state couldn't survive. But in the era where one-party state was the trend,
but why was the one-party state not surviving? Was it an ideological backbone to push the one-party state? A political system survives when the people embrace it. Is it that the people didn't embrace the one-party state? The democracy in Ghana today, largely because people have embraced it. Why have people embraced it? Because when there's something wrong with you, you can have a voice. There's independent media. So you can go on a radio station and make noise and somebody will come. You can do this. That's why people embrace it. People don't embrace it because they love a political party. They embrace it because the system allows them to operate. The one-party state doesn't allow anybody to operate. And that's why it all collapsed.
Go back to the
it's not about social
at the time we gained independence in the 1960s, because 1960s is called the Year of Africa, not everyone was concerned about democracy. Everyone was concerned about bread and butter. There was a need to catch up developmentally. That was one context.
Yeah.
So
let me wrap it up.
But if you come to the 90s, there was this different approach to within democracy. But the reason why some of those one parties didn't survive was that if you look at Rawlings, when he went to the structural arrangement, he said, if you want to board a bus, you must pay the fare. But Soviet Union was struggling economically and could not even back its allies and satellite states. But luckily for But Cuba is the only country that have been able to survive the collapse of the Soviet Union without changing the system. Every other country had to evolve. Perhaps in Africa, we could say Eritrea also survived that change. But aside from this...
So you think that we should look at the one-party state again as we wrap up? I could go back and send me a text, okay, I'll read it later. You think we should look at the one-party state again as a potential solution for economic development?
At this moment,
yeah,
I think we rather need a strong government. And the most important, what we like
is a strong government?
For example...
A government that doesn't listen to anyone.
In the likes of Rwanda, there are still elections, right? In the likes of South Africa, there are still elections, right? But
South Africa is a democracy.
It's a de facto one-party state.
Oh, well, that's a one-party state by the people, so that's okay.
No, it's a democracy, but it's a de facto. And you cannot tell me there's a level playing for everyone in South Africa.
I know, but there's a party that has grown, that has been able to grow. In a one-party state, nobody grows.
We saw Zuma and ANC use force against Malema.
But he survived. He's still there.
That shows that even in South Africa, there's no level playing field. But what I'm saying is that in terms of development, I don't think the biggest deficit we have, people say leadership, not just leadership, but lack of political will. We have people who will tell us they will do A and B outside office. And when they come to office, they do C and D.
What has that done? What's the point?
Because to develop, no one develops as a slave of another.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care whether it's about China or US.
Mm-hmm.
The most important is that secure your interest. But if you come and will still pander to the dictate of this country, it doesn't matter whether the leader is a left winger or a right winger. If it doesn't secure our interests, we'll still suffer.
So what's the point?
So it takes it takes political will.
The political will, how do we gauge it?
It depends on the leaders and their principle. Do you believe in the principle?
So if a leader comes and you see he doesn't have political will, what do you do?
Well, for me, well, I wouldn't even bother voting.
You bother voting the next time?
I wouldn't bother voting.
Okay.
Until I see alternative in the opposition itself. Because if I don't see a difference between the oppositions...
Okay, so at least you agree that they have to be voted for. Yeah. Whether he's done bad or not, you have to wait and vote.
No, democracy, that's one thing. There's one advantage.
I thought you were saying if he doesn't have political will, then you let him go.
But no, if he goes by... You see, that's one advantage democracy has over military dictatorship, is that whether good or bad, there's a peaceful change of government. And we cannot take away that principle from democracy. That's the benefit and the burden of democracy. But then beyond that, we need to look at democracy beyond just election, beyond just having the right to talk.
Yeah, it's a development. Democracy and development.
So if we can talk and we can't afford bread and butter, and then somebody offers a system that offers bread and butter.
Then you can't afford bread and butter, you change the government. Or like you say, you stop voting.
But if you look at Africa precisely, then dictatorship, in quotes.
Metro TV. Insightful and inspiring moments.
Has Christianity always been one of the religions in the world to you?
Oh, hallelujah. Praise God. Christianity is not a religion, neither is it a joining of a church and doing the Christian things like praying and giving and so on. Hallelujah. Christianity is the outworking of God's own